Senator Sandy Pappas has a bill that would allow 18 to 21-year-olds to have a glass of wine or a beer when they're out to dinner with their parents. She's here to discuss this provision. Senator, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
First of all, what was the impetus behind this legislation?
Actually, Representative Phyllis Kahn and I have always commented that we kind of prefer the European approach, or there's actually 12 other states that allow older teenagers, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, to have a glass of wine when they're out with their parents. And so she brought it to me this year, and we've done various liquor bills together, 2 a.m. closings, etc. So I agreed to try it, and I was actually surprised when I got a hearing.
You did get a hearing on it.
I got a hearing on it, right.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the concerns that have come up because of it. One would be Senator Warren Limmer stating that essentially it's underage drinking. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with this?
Well, what is the legal age? I mean, at 18, you can get married, you can take out loans that place you in huge debt. You can buy a house, you can adopt a child, you can get married, you can sign documents, you can vote, you can join the military. So you just can't drink. You can't legally drink. And this is a very modest approach because we actually amended the bill to scale it back to just the provision where if you're with your parents or you're with your legal guardian, or if you're with a spouse that's legal. What if you're 20 and you're married to someone who's 25 and they want to take you out for a Valentine's dinner and you can't have a glass of wine? So we think it was a really modest approach.
Kind of working off of that theory, I'm a parent and my son has his father's last name. So how do you envision the enforcement of this so that you know that that person is indeed with a family member who's legal?
That's very interesting. I never thought of that. I think that the server would just say, are you the parent? And they'd say yes, and that would probably be the end of it. I don't know that they would ask you to prove documentation or something.
So you wouldn't have to pull out your birth certificate or anything. Yeah. Okay. And I did want to ask, why beer and wine? Why not allow for spirits as well?
Oh, spirits are allowed.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Well, there we go. So you got one on me, I got one on you. It wasn't even intentional. Yeah. So I want to talk to you real quickly now. So at this point, the bill has been pulled from committee?
It passed out of committee and it was sent to transportation, and the transportation chair agreed that it didn't have an impact on federal funding, which was the concern, because the alcohol is still considered in the possession of the parents. So that's how 12, 14 other states are able to do this legally and not lose federal funds. But when I pulled it to the floor, I had a motion, Senator Limmer offered a higher motion to pull it into Judiciary Committee. And that actually kills it for the year because then we don't meet the deadline.
Okay, and given that, you still have some options available, such as offering it as an amendment.
I could offer it as an amendment. And the reason why I may consider doing that is because the more serious side of this, it's not just being able to have a drink with your parents, it's also the issue of binge drinking. That over 150 college presidents have signed a letter saying that we should lower the drinking age, because it's not enforceable. And we encourage students to binge drink, to pre-game, it's called, where they drink a lot of alcohol before they go out, so it'll last them during the evening. Since they can't legally drink, they illegally drink. And it doesn't really teach them moderation. So if they're allowed to go out and legally drink in a public setting, they learn moderate drinking and they don't feel like they're deprived and they have to go underground with it. And we have a huge problem with underground drinking.
What do you think the support is? Have you gauged it yet?
I was surprised in committee how many people thought that it was very reasonable. And it just may be that maybe in families they have a tradition at Thanksgiving or at Passover, like in my family, that young people can have half a glass of wine to just try it out. And that it's not seen as that big a deal to most parents.
Okay, and a more broad topic, what is your overall impression of the Omnibus Liquor Bill as it currently stands?
Well, as it currently stands, it's pretty non-controversial, and that's been the tradition with the Omnibus Liquor Bill, is that you keep the more controversial things like my provision as standalone bills. So the most controversial provision was pulled out, and that's called primary source. And that is to require that alcohol, like current law requires wine and beer, retailers can only purchase that from the manufacturer directly. So there is a market where they can get less expensive alcohol, but there's a concern about it being altered or adulterated in some way.
I'm just about out of time, but I did want to ask, do you think you might add your provision as an amendment to the liquor bill?
Well, you're kind of encouraging me.
Just asking your
You're
thoughts
making
at
it sound
this
like an
time.
interesting idea, and I'm strongly considering it.
Okay.
But the other provisions in the liquor bill really have to do with loosening the laws around wine, and I support that too.
Okay, well, if you add your provision to it on the floor, I'm sure we'll have some heated debate on the issue.
Right.
So, Senator Pappas, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.